The morning air in the quiet Texas suburb was unusually still, as if the town itself held its breath. The sun had just begun to stretch its golden fingers across manicured lawns and neatly trimmed hedges, reflecting off dewy grass in a soft shimmer. Birds chirped lazily from the trees, unaware that the calm would soon shatter. Sirens pierced the serenity, announcing the arrival of Officer Daniels and his K-9 partner, Rex, a muscular German shepherd whose reputation for precision and reliability preceded him. Residents stirred, peering from behind curtains, their curiosity and unease mingling. Daniels, a veteran with 15 years on the force, parked his cruiser near the center of the cul-de-sac. He removed his jacket and adjusted his badge with a practiced motion. His eyes scanned the street, noting subtle signs of movement that might reveal the source of the call. Beside him, Rex shifted impatiently, tail stiff, ears perked, sensing the tension in the air. The dog's instincts were almost preternatural, honed through years of rigorous training and countless hours with Daniels navigating crime scenes. When Rex was alert, Daniels knew to pay attention. The dispatch had been vague. Suspicious activity reported, possible burglary. Not unusual, but the combination of a nervous neighbor's call and recent break-ins in the area made Daniels take the scene seriously. He approached the nearest house, footsteps deliberate, his voice calm yet firm as he addressed anyone nearby. "Stay back. We're clearing the area." His words carried authority, but he knew that calm authority didn't always stop curious eyes. That's when he noticed her, a small figure standing at the edge of the street, clutching a worn stuffed bunny. Emily, barely 10, had hair the color of chestnuts and wide, observant eyes that seemed far older than her age. She didn't cower or run, though the presence of uniformed officers and the flashing lights could intimidate any child. Instead, she stood, her gaze fixed on Rex, who had already detected the faintest hint of irregular movement. She whispered something, almost imperceptibly. Daniels caught only the last syllable, but it was enough to make him pause. "Not him," she said, her voice quiet but clear. He froze, exchanging a glance with Officer Martinez, who had arrived in the second cruiser. Martinez raised an eyebrow. "Did she just—" "Yeah," Daniels muttered, kneeling slightly to get a better look at Emily. His mind raced. The suspect they had been tracking was a young man standing near a mailbox, packing nervously, matching the descriptions given in the past few burglaries. Every instinct told him to move, to detain, to proceed with the arrest. But something about the girl's calm, confident tone gave him pause. Rex, usually aggressive in these situations, froze mid-step. His nose twitched as he tilted his head, staring at Emily with an intensity that unnerved even the seasoned officers. He didn't bark. He didn't lunge. He simply paused, as if waiting for instructions only Emily could give. Daniels approached cautiously, keeping one hand on Rex's collar. "What did you just say?" he asked gently, lowering his voice so as not to alarm the suspect or the neighbors. "Not him," Emily repeated, pointing subtly toward a thick hedge near the edge of the property. Her voice was steady, not the trembling tone of a frightened child. It carried authority. It carried certainty. Daniels felt a shiver run down his spine. He had worked alongside K-9 units for years, seen Rex respond to countless cues, but never like this. The dog was listening to her, not him. He glanced at Martinez. "Rex is responding to her, not me." Martinez frowned, clearly confused. "It's a kid. She doesn't even know." "She knows," Daniels interrupted, his eyes narrowing. "Something about this girl she knows." The suspect, noticing the officer's hesitation, fidgeted nervously, his eyes darting between Daniels and Rex. He wasn't aware that he wasn't the true focus of the investigation anymore. All the while, Emily remained calm, seemingly unshaken by the flashing lights, the sirens, or the tense energy in the street. Daniels took a deep breath and gestured for Martinez to follow him toward the hedge. Rex's ears perked as they moved, sniffing the ground carefully, guided by Emily's subtle direction. The officers approached cautiously, aware that the scene could still turn dangerous at any second. It didn't take long to find the first clue. Hidden beneath a thick layer of fallen leaves was a small leather pouch, worn but intact. Daniels knelt, gingerly picking it up. Inside was a collection of jewelry, some of it glinting even in the muted morning light. Necklaces, rings, and small bracelets, all items reported missing from several burglaries in the neighborhood over the past month. Martinez whistled softly. "Well, I'll be damned, she led us right to it." Daniels nodded, keeping his focus on Emily and Rex. "Not him," he murmured, echoing the girl's words. That simple phrase had redirected their investigation completely, revealing what had eluded trained eyes for weeks. Emily's expression didn't change. She simply hugged her stuffed bunny closer and looked at Rex. The dog, seemingly satisfied, gave a low whine before nudging her hand gently. Daniels watched, astonished. The interaction between child and canine was uncanny, almost as if they shared an unspoken language known only to them. The neighbors, having gathered silently behind their fences, whispered amongst themselves, awe and curiosity in their voices. Some took out their phones, recording the scene. A 10-year-old girl had quietly altered the course of a police investigation without raising her voice or demanding attention. Daniels knew this was only the beginning. The discovery of the pouch suggested a larger operation, a criminal pattern they hadn't yet uncovered. And Emily, quiet, observant, and unassuming, was about to become central to understanding it all. He stood, carefully keeping the pouch secure, and looked at the young girl. "How did you know?" he asked, though he feared the answer might be more complicated than a child could explain. Emily shrugged lightly, her eyes steady. "Rex knows," she said simply. That was all. Daniels exhaled slowly, a mix of admiration and disbelief washing over him. He had worked on hundreds of cases, but never had he encountered a situation where a child's instincts and a dog's responsiveness outperformed months of investigative effort. The morning had begun with the expectation of a routine call, a minor burglary at best. Now, it had transformed into something extraordinary. He glanced back at the suspect, who was still packing nervously, unaware of the shift in focus. "Let's secure him, just in case," Daniels instructed. Martinez nodded, placing the man in handcuffs without resistance. But both officers knew the real investigation had just begun. The clues in the pouch hinted at a series of burglaries, perhaps more than they had anticipated. Emily remained silent, standing near Rex, who stayed alert and obedient. The bond between them was palpable, a mix of trust, intuition, and quiet understanding that Daniels and Martinez could only watch in awe. "Let's take a closer look at the area," Daniels said, turning to his team. "And let's pay attention to the girl's cues." He paused, glancing at Emily. "Looks like we've got a partner today." Emily's lips curved into a small, almost shy smile. She simply nodded, the weight of the morning's events already settling on her small shoulders. And so the investigation began, not just with officers and a K-9 unit, but with an unlikely, brilliant partner whose two simple words would reveal secrets no one saw coming. The calm suburban morning had ended. In its place was anticipation, curiosity, and the quiet realization that heroism often arrives in the most unexpected forms. The sun climbed higher, burning off the morning mist, casting long shadows across the quiet Texas street. Officer Daniels stood with his team, holding the small leather pouch tightly, the stolen jewelry glinting faintly in the sunlight. The tension in the neighborhood hadn't eased. Neighbors whispered in small clusters, their eyes darting between the officers, the suspect in custody, and the girl who had just redirected the entire investigation. Emily remained near Rex, her small hands clutching her stuffed bunny, calm in the face of what had been a tense confrontation. Daniels exhaled, trying to process what had just happened. A 10-year-old child, untrained in law enforcement protocol, had instructed a K-9 and effectively a veteran officer to ignore a suspect. Not only had she corrected their assumption, but she had led them directly to critical evidence. His mind raced with questions. How had she known? Why had Rex responded so instinctively to her words? What did she see that they did not? "Emily," Daniels said softly, crouching to her level, "how did you know it was him?" The girl's brown eyes met his, unwavering. Her answer wasn't immediate. She seemed to measure her words carefully, a confidence that seemed far beyond her years. "Rex knows," she said again, this time looking pointedly at the dog. Daniels paused, struck by the simplicity and clarity of her explanation. It wasn't just an instruction, it was a statement of understanding, a knowledge born of experience. Martinez shook his head, incredulous. "It's a child. She doesn't know the first thing about patterns or procedures." Daniels turned, eyes narrowing. "No," he said, shaking his head slowly, "she knows more than we think." He gestured toward Rex. "Watch the dog. He responds to her cues, not mine, not anyone else. That's not coincidence." Rex whined softly and nudged Emily's leg, tail wagging slightly, almost as if confirming her authority. The officers took a step back, letting the girl guide the investigation. She walked toward a narrow strip of unkempt bushes between two houses. Rex followed obediently, moving with precision, sniffing every corner, every blade of grass, every crack in the pavement. The team trailed behind, carefully observing how the child and the dog navigated the area. With each step, Emily's confidence grew and Rex's attentiveness became almost hypnotic to watch. It was like watching a well-choreographed dance between instinct and intuition. Daniels could see the sweat forming on Martinez's brow. "She's a natural," he murmured. "I can't believe I'm saying this, but she's a natural." Martinez made a skeptical sound but didn't argue. There was no denying what they were witnessing. Emily stopped suddenly, crouching near the base of a large hedge. She pointed to a barely noticeable indentation in the dirt, hidden beneath the fallen leaves. "Here," she whispered. Rex's ears perked, his body rigid with alertness. Daniels knelt to inspect the area and immediately noticed tiny scuff marks on the soil, footprints leading to the backyard of an abandoned house at the end of the street. They hadn't detected this path before. It was subtle, almost invisible. But Emily's eyes had caught it immediately. "That's where we start," Daniels said, rising and addressing his team. He glanced at Emily. "You're guiding us." Emily nodded, tilting her head toward the path. "Rex knows where to look," she said simply. As they moved along the faint trail, the officers discovered more hidden clues. A broken padlock lying discarded near a fence, the corner of a torn glove caught on a bush, and faint scratches on a gate. Each clue seemed trivial at first glance, but together they formed a pattern, a trail the police had been missing for weeks. Emily noticed them all, her sharp gaze and intuitive understanding guiding Rex to each one. Daniels felt a mix of admiration and disbelief. He had trained alongside K-9 units for years, but he had never seen a dog respond with such precision to a child. Rex was behaving not as a trained officer's partner, but as if he were following a co-conspirator's subtle, silent guidance. And Emily was leading with confidence, never hesitating, never second-guessing herself. The trail eventually led to a narrow alley behind a row of garages. Emily paused, pointing toward a small pile of rubble. "Look," she said softly. Rex immediately sniffed the pile, pawing at it gently. Daniels crouched to investigate and uncovered another piece of stolen property, a wristwatch with a distinct engraving that matched one of the burglaries reported last month. Martinez whistled softly. "This is incredible. She's leading us to the evidence that's been hiding in plain sight." Daniels nodded, his mind racing. The realization hit him. This girl's instincts were unmatched. She had grown up around K-9 units, sure, but her intuition was extraordinary. She wasn't just repeating what she had learned. She was analyzing patterns, interpreting behavior, and making decisions that even seasoned officers might overlook. The afternoon heat was rising, but Emily and Rex showed no signs of slowing. They continued along the trail, uncovering more items, a pair of earrings, a small necklace, and even a leather-bound wallet that had been reported missing in a recent burglary. Each find added pieces to the puzzle, revealing the scope of the thefts. The stolen items had been scattered across the neighborhood, left hidden in obscure corners, yet Emily's guidance made the discovery process swift and methodical. As they worked, Daniels couldn't help but think about her father. He had been a K-9 trainer, a man who taught dogs to respond to subtle commands, to sense danger, and to follow instinct. Emily had absorbed everything he had taught, even after his sudden death 2 years earlier. The lessons, once theoretical, had become intuitive tools for her to navigate the investigation. Daniels realized that the girl's understanding of Rex was far deeper than mere familiarity. It was a bond forged by shared experience and inherited knowledge. By mid-afternoon, the team had uncovered nearly all of the hidden items. The investigation, which had begun as a routine burglary call, had transformed into a methodical unraveling of a larger criminal pattern. Emily's calm demeanor and precise instructions had prevented mistakes, guided the officers, and ultimately ensured that the correct evidence was found. Daniels finally took a moment to address her. "Emily, you just helped solve multiple crimes with Rex. I've never seen anything like it." She simply shrugged, her face serious but not proud. "Rex and we work together," she said quietly. "We know when something's wrong." The officers exchanged amazed glances. Martinez shook his head. A 10-year-old just outperformed an entire investigation team. Daniels nodded, realizing that her contributions had shifted the course of the investigation entirely. She had become an indispensable partner, not just a witness, not just a helpful civilian, but a guide whose instincts bridged the gap between human insight and canine perception. As the sun began to dip toward the horizon, casting long orange shadows across the neighborhood, Daniels knew this was only the beginning. The items recovered were pieces of a much larger puzzle. The suspect in custody had been innocent, misidentified. And yet, thanks to Emily, the true trail of crime had been uncovered, leading toward something far more complex and dangerous. Emily stood quietly beside Rex, clutching her bunny. The dog nudged her gently as if in thanks. Daniels knelt briefly, looking into the girl's eyes. "You have a gift," he said softly, "and it's about to help us catch someone who's been hiding for a long time." Emily nodded solemnly. "I just know," she said. "Rex helps me see." As the team prepared to follow the trail to its next point, the quiet girl and her K-9 companion led the way. The neighborhood held its breath, watching a 10-year-old girl become the center of an investigation, her instincts illuminating paths no one else had noticed. The ordinary morning had turned into the first chapter of a story that no one would forget, a story where courage, intuition, and trust between a child and a dog changed everything. The trail led Daniels, Martinez, Emily, and Rex through winding alleys, over fences, and past backyards where the grass was overgrown and the shadows stretched long. Each step revealed subtle signs that the officers had overlooked in prior investigations. A faint scuff mark on a gate post, the barely visible outline of a recently disturbed bush, and a thread caught on a jagged edge, small details that seemed insignificant to an untrained eye. But Emily's sharp gaze caught them all. She paused at each point, whispering to Rex, who responded instantly, sniffing, pawing, and alerting the officers to the hidden evidence. Daniels marveled at her ability to notice things he had missed even after years of experience. The child was not only observant but analytical, understanding patterns and behaviors in a way that seemed innate. She crouched near a pile of leaves and twigs, her fingers brushing aside debris to reveal a small, ornate ring. The officers had interviewed dozens of witnesses and checked dozens of houses, yet this single ring had gone unnoticed. Rex sniffed the air, then nudged the girl's hand, confirming her discovery. Martinez leaned over, examining the small piece of evidence. "It's like she can see what the rest of us can't," he murmured. Daniels nodded silently, not wanting to interrupt the girl's focus. Every item they uncovered became another thread in the tapestry of a criminal who had managed to evade capture for weeks. Emily's knowledge of Rex's cues and her quiet confidence were guiding the investigation in ways that officers and technology alone could not. The group continued along the trail, moving cautiously but efficiently. The air was thick with anticipation, the sounds of distant traffic and rustling leaves filling the silence between their movements. Emily's sharp eyes caught another clue, a tiny fragment of a torn glove caught in a low branch, just above the ground. She pointed it out to Daniels, who carefully collected it for evidence. Rex circled the area, sniffing for more hints, following the child's instinct rather than his handler's commands. Daniels was beginning to understand that this wasn't just intuition, it was experience translated into instinct. Emily had grown up around K-9 training, absorbing lessons from her father that she now applied seamlessly. The way she moved through the alleys, the way she spoke to Rex, and the way the dog responded all demonstrated a partnership forged through familiarity, trust, and subtle communication. For the officers, it was mesmerizing. The trail eventually led them to the edge of a neglected park, overgrown with tall grass and scattered debris. Emily paused and crouched, brushing aside leaves to reveal a worn leather wallet. Inside were identification cards, some cash, and several keys, each with faint fingerprints that Daniels knew could be traced. The wallet had been reported missing in a burglary just days earlier. Rex pawed gently at her shoulder, alerting her to a hidden corner nearby, where another piece of jewelry glinted in the fading light. "This is incredible," Martinez said under his breath. "She's finding things we've missed for weeks." Daniels nodded, thinking of the hours his team had spent poring over reports, checking surveillance footage and interviewing witnesses. A child and a dog had now done what dozens of officers and technology had not. It was humbling, even inspiring. Emily's expression remained serious, her focus unbroken. "Rex knows where to look next," she whispered, and the dog responded, moving toward a dense clump of shrubs bordering the park. Daniels followed closely, noting subtle disturbances in the ground, broken twigs and scuff marks that suggested recent activity. Martinez carried the collected items carefully, ensuring nothing was damaged. Each new discovery reinforced the idea that the suspect had been meticulous, careful, and confident that the stolen items would never be found. The neighborhood, quiet until now, seemed to hold its breath. Residents peeked through windows or paused on front porches, watching a 10-year-old girl methodically guide a K-9 unit through a labyrinth of clues. Emily moved with purpose, never rushing, never panicking, yet each decision carried weight. Her two simple words earlier, "not him," had already shifted the investigation's trajectory, and now her ongoing guidance was uncovering a criminal trail hidden in plain sight. By late afternoon, the team had collected multiple pieces of evidence: jewelry, cash, keys, and items that linked back to several recent burglaries. Daniels examined each piece, noting fingerprints, serial numbers, and identifying marks that would lead to a more significant breakthrough. The suspect in custody was already in the station, unaware that his initial misidentification had been corrected by the observant girl and her K-9 companion. Martinez glanced at Daniels, shaking his head in disbelief. "It's like she has a sixth sense, or maybe Rex does, or maybe both of them together make some kind of perfect team." Daniels allowed a small smile. "It's more than a sense," he said. "It's experience, intuition, and trust. That's something you can't teach in a classroom or a training exercise, and it's rare." As the sun began its slow descent, casting long orange and pink shadows across the park, Emily paused and surveyed the area. Her eyes narrowed, scanning for the final hidden clues. Rex moved at her side, his head low, following every subtle gesture she made. Daniels and Martinez watched as the two worked together seamlessly, uncovering even more hidden items: a necklace under a pile of leaves, a bracelet partially buried in dirt, and a small, leather-bound journal containing notes about locations and transactions. Each discovery added layers to the investigation, revealing a suspect far more cunning than anyone had anticipated. Daniels felt a mix of awe and relief. The items Emily and Rex had uncovered provided a clearer picture of the criminal's movements, methods, and planning. It was an investigative breakthrough that might otherwise have taken weeks or even months to piece together. The pair's partnership was unprecedented, an untrained child applying inherited knowledge, paired with a highly trained dog responding instinctively to cues. Together, they were rewriting the rules of the investigation. The officers followed Emily as she led them toward the final stretch of the park. She paused near a dense thicket of trees, motioning for Rex to circle around. The dog hesitated briefly, then darted into the underbrush, emerging moments later with a small, intricately carved box. Daniels carefully collected it, noting that it contained documents and stolen items that directly linked the crimes to a larger operation. The breakthrough was complete. The evidence trail that had eluded them for weeks was now fully visible, thanks to the partnership between Emily and Rex. As the team regrouped, Daniels turned to the girl. "Emily," he said, his voice filled with genuine admiration, "you've just helped us uncover an entire criminal pattern. I've never seen anything like this in my career." Emily tilted her head as if considering his words and then shrugged slightly. "I just know," she said. "Rex helps me see what's hidden." Daniels glanced at Martinez, who nodded slowly. "We're witnessing something extraordinary," he said. "A child guiding a trained K9. Together, they've solved what would have taken us months." Daniels agreed. The implications were profound. Training, experience, and intuition had all converged in a single, remarkable partnership. As twilight descended on the neighborhood, Emily stood quietly beside Rex, who remained alert, scanning the surroundings with unyielding focus. The officers carefully cataloged and documented the recovered items, aware that this case would be remembered not just for the crimes solved, but for the unlikely hero at the center of it all. The 10-year-old girl had transformed the investigation, proving that courage, intelligence, and trust could come in the most unexpected forms. Daniels allowed himself a moment of reflection. The morning had begun with a routine call, expecting nothing more than a minor burglary report. Instead, they had been guided by a child and her dog to uncover evidence that would have otherwise remained hidden. Emily's instinct, honed by experience and an intuitive understanding of K9 behavior, had changed the course of the investigation entirely. As they prepared to leave the park and return to the precinct, Daniels felt a quiet certainty. This was only the beginning. Emily's guidance had revealed the depth of the criminal operation, but it also hinted at challenges ahead, an intricate puzzle that would require her insight, Rex's skill, and the officers' experience to solve fully. For now, however, the neighborhood was safe, and the evidence secured. Emily clutched her stuffed bunny, Rex at her side, while Daniels and Martinez began planning the next steps. The child had proven herself in ways no one could have anticipated. She had not only corrected their mistake, but had also opened the door to a deeper investigation, one that promised to reveal a criminal far more sophisticated than anyone had expected. And as the last rays of the sun slipped behind the trees, the quiet Texas street seemed to exhale, the tension finally easing. But everyone knew that the story was far from over. Emily and Rex had uncovered hidden clues that would guide them further, and the officers understood that the true challenge was just beginning. The ordinary morning had transformed into a tale of instinct, intelligence, and courage, the first steps in a journey that no one in the neighborhood would ever forget. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the quiet Texas neighborhood as Daniels, Martinez, Emily, and Rex returned to the precinct, the stolen items and evidence carefully secured. Yet, even as the officers processed the items, Daniels couldn't stop thinking about the girl. Emily's calm demeanor, her uncanny ability to notice what even the trained K9 had initially overlooked, and the precise way Rex had responded to her cues, it all seemed extraordinary. He found himself questioning how a child so young could possess the instincts, an insight that had just guided a full-scale investigation. Martinez shuffled through the evidence reports, shaking his head. "I still can't believe it," he muttered, glancing toward Emily. "She's 10, and she's just extraordinary." Daniels didn't respond immediately, lost in thought. The breakthrough wasn't just the evidence. They had uncovered items that connected a string of burglaries spanning several months. Without Emily's guidance, the investigation might have stalled entirely, leaving the criminal free to continue. Finally, Daniels asked Emily to sit with him for a moment in a quiet office at the back of the station. She sat cross-legged on a chair, hugging her stuffed bunny tightly, looking slightly nervous but composed. "Emily," Daniels began gently, "how did you know where to look? Where did you learn to notice all these things?" The girl's brown eyes met his, steady and clear. "My dad taught me," she said softly, almost as if it were obvious. Daniels paused, suddenly remembering the conversation he'd overheard from neighbors weeks ago, that Emily's father had been a K-9 trainer before his sudden death 2 years prior. He nodded slowly. "Your father, he worked with dogs," Emily nodded again. "Yes, he said you have to watch the smallest things, look where others don't, and always trust the dog. Rex and I, we know." Daniels exhaled, realizing the magnitude of what she had just revealed. Her father had trained dogs, yes, but he had also taught her the subtleties of reading both the animals and the environment. Emily had absorbed these lessons from an early age, internalizing knowledge most adults could only understand through years of professional experience. And now, she was applying them naturally, instinctively, in a high-stakes situation. Martinez leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, looking almost awestruck. "So she's been raised in the world of K-9 units and she just knew. That's insane," Daniels nodded. "It's not just knowing, it's intuition combined with experience. She sees patterns we might miss. She interprets Rex's behavior in ways that even I struggle with sometimes." Emily's fingers tightened around her bunny. "Dad said Rex can tell when something's wrong and I can tell what Rex notices. I just follow him." Her voice was quiet, yet her confidence resonated in the room. Daniels glanced at Rex, who sat obediently by her side, ears perked, eyes bright, as if confirming the girl's words. It was more than training, it was a partnership, a silent language built on trust, observation, and instinct. Daniels reflected on the past months, recalling files and reports from burglaries that had baffled the precinct. The suspects had been clever, leaving minimal traces, exploiting minor oversights, and relying on residents' assumptions. Yet Emily had not only identified the right clues, she had also guided Rex to them in a sequence that revealed the criminal's methodical approach. Without her input, crucial evidence might have remained hidden indefinitely. The officers began reviewing the collected evidence, piecing together the trail that Emily and Rex had uncovered. Jewelry, cash, keys, wallets, and even small personal items, all pointed toward a single calculated burglar with a pattern that now appeared clear. Daniels studied the details carefully. "This is more than a one-time thief," he murmured. "They've been planning, organizing, and moving through the neighborhood without leaving obvious traces, and Emily just pulled the whole pattern into view." Martinez leaned over a table littered with documents and photos, shaking his head in disbelief. "All this, and she didn't even panic. She's calm, deliberate. It's like she's been doing this for years." Daniels allowed himself a faint smile, watching Emily interact with Rex. The dog nudged her hand gently, waiting for direction, and she responded with subtle cues, a tilt of her head, a shift in posture that seemed to guide him seamlessly. Daniels realized that Emily's father had done more than train dogs. He had taught his daughter to read them, understand them, and anticipate their reactions. She wasn't simply a child in a dangerous situation. She was a skilled observer, capable of analyzing the smallest details and interpreting them accurately. Her guidance had prevented mistakes, corrected assumptions, and ultimately ensured that the investigation was on the right track. The precinct buzzed quietly as officers processed the evidence. Reports were filed, photographs taken, and items carefully cataloged for forensic analysis. Emily remained calm, sitting beside Rex, watching the activity with quiet interest. Daniels approached her again, kneeling to meet her eye level. "Emily, you've done something extraordinary today. Not many adults could have accomplished what you just did." Emily tilted her head, considering his words. "I just followed Rex," she said softly. "He shows me where to look. I just notice what he notices." Daniels nodded, realizing the simplicity of her explanation belied the complexity of what had just occurred. Their partnership, child and dog, instinct and training, had produced results that even the most seasoned officers might have missed. Martinez chuckled quietly, shaking his head. "We're officially outclassed by a 10-year-old and a dog. That's got to be a first." Daniels allowed a small laugh but quickly refocused. The breakthrough was significant. Not only had they uncovered hidden evidence, but they had also avoided misidentifying an innocent man, thanks to Emily's insight. This was a testament to observation, intuition, and trust, qualities that could not be measured in years of training alone. Daniels reflected on the broader implications. Emily's guidance had revealed the scope of the criminal operation, connecting multiple burglaries, tracing patterns of movement, and uncovering items that would have remained hidden without her intervention. Her observations had changed the course of the investigation entirely, highlighting the importance of instinct, partnership, and meticulous attention to detail. As the sun began to dip below the horizon, casting long shadows across the precinct parking lot, Daniels and Martinez escorted Emily and Rex outside. The air was warm but cooling, filled with the faint sounds of distant traffic and chirping crickets. Emily's presence was calm and grounding, a reminder that even in the chaos of investigation, clarity and intuition could guide the way. Daniels knelt beside her one last time, speaking quietly. "Emily, you have an extraordinary gift, not just with Rex but with how you notice, think, and act. It's rare and it's remarkable. Your father would be proud." Emily looked at him, eyes wide but steady, a small smile playing on her lips. "I miss him," she admitted softly. "But Rex, he helps me remember what he taught me." The officers watched silently, touched by the depth of the bond between child and dog. This was more than an investigative partnership. It was a living legacy, a continuation of knowledge passed from father to daughter, applied in ways that changed the outcome of a complex case. Daniels and Martinez walked back toward the precinct, carrying the remaining evidence and discussing next steps. Emily followed with Rex at her side, alert and attentive, her focus unwavering. Each step seemed to echo the importance of their discoveries, the seriousness of the responsibility she had shouldered, and the quiet strength that had guided them through the day. By evening, the precinct had organized the recovered items, documented all findings, and prepared to follow up on leads that Emily and Rex had uncovered. Daniels couldn't shake the thought that the child had fundamentally altered the approach to the investigation. She had demonstrated that intuition, experience, and trust could surpass traditional methods. Martinez shook his head one last time, muttering, "She's going to be legendary in this town before she even hits middle school." Daniels smiled faintly, knowing he agreed, but more importantly, he knew that Emily's contribution was far from complete. The evidence they had recovered, combined with her instinct and Rex's guidance, would lead them further, toward the heart of a criminal network they had yet to fully uncover. Emily sat quietly beside Rex, hugging her stuffed bunny as the precinct buzzed around her. The dog rested his head gently on her lap, eyes alert, ears twitching at every small sound. Daniels watched them both, aware that the next steps would be guided by this remarkable partnership. It was more than skill, it was connection, understanding, and quiet courage that would drive the investigation forward. The night settled over the city, soft and still, but the work had only just begun. Emily's insight, combined with Rex's skill and the officer's experience, had uncovered a path to truth hidden in shadows. And as the stars appeared overhead, Daniels realized that the most extraordinary discovery of the day wasn't the evidence. They were Emily and Rex, a team that no one had anticipated, a force that had changed the investigation entirely. For now, the precinct rested, but tomorrow would bring new challenges, deeper investigation, and more opportunities for Emily and Rex to reveal the secrets no one else could see. Their journey was far from over, but the first breakthrough, born of a child's knowledge, a dog's instincts, and a bond stronger than most understand, had set them firmly on the path toward justice. The next morning, the neighborhood woke to an unusual sense of tension, though life seemed outwardly calm. Birds chirped, Dogs barked in the distance, and neighbors quietly went about their routines, unaware that the investigation was far from over. Officer Daniels and Martinez arrived early at the precinct, carrying evidence from the previous day. Emily and Rex were already waiting outside, alert and ready. The small girl, still clutching her stuffed bunny, radiated a focus that belied her age, while Rex's ears twitched at every sound, scanning the area as though anticipating the day's challenges. Daniels briefed his team quickly, laying out the discoveries from yesterday. Hidden jewelry, cash, wallets, keys, and documents found under bushes, in alleys, and scattered throughout the neighborhood. Each piece of evidence connected to previous burglaries, painting a clearer picture of a meticulous and careful criminal. But the trail wasn't complete. Gaps remained, and the suspect's pattern suggested a level of sophistication that required precise observation to uncover. Emily crouched near Rex, her eyes scanning the ground. "He went this way," she said softly, pointing toward a narrow pathway between two garages. Rex reacted instantly, moving with purpose, nose close to the ground, following her subtle cues. Daniels and Martinez followed, careful to maintain a safe distance while keeping watch on Emily and Rex. The child's intuition seemed to direct the investigation, and the dog's responsiveness reinforced her guidance. Martinez shook his head in disbelief. "This is unreal," he muttered under his breath. "We've been chasing leads for weeks, and a 10-year-old girl is doing what we couldn't." Daniels didn't respond, his attention focused on observing the small trail Emily and Rex were uncovering. Every footprint, scuff mark, and discarded item seemed to tell a story, one that Emily pieced together with a quiet precision that was remarkable. The trail led them down a long, winding alley, past overgrown fences and abandoned sheds. Emily paused, tilting her head slightly and motioning Rex toward a small mound of dirt. The dog approached cautiously, sniffing and pawing gently. Daniels and Martinez carefully examined the site and discovered a small leather pouch partially buried beneath the soil. Inside were several pieces of jewelry and a handwritten note containing names and addresses, evidence that directly connected the suspect to multiple thefts. "Look at this," Martinez said, spreading the items on a clean tarp for inspection. "This wasn't random. This is organized. Someone's planning and leaving intentional markers." Daniels nodded. Emily glanced at Rex, who was watching her intently. "Rex knows where to find the rest," she said quietly. The dog responded immediately, sniffing the ground with renewed focus, guiding the officers along the next segment of the trail. As they continued, the investigation revealed a pattern of deliberate misdirection. Broken fences, discarded gloves, and partially hidden items indicated a careful plan designed to mislead authorities. Emily noticed subtle inconsistencies, footprints leading in circles, faint scratches on gates, and disturbed soil near hidden corners. Her observations guided Rex to locations the officers would have otherwise overlooked. Each discovery added a piece to the puzzle, gradually revealing the true scope of the criminal operation. By mid-morning, they arrived at a dilapidated warehouse on the edge of town. Its exterior was unremarkable, peeling paint, boarded windows, but Emily's eyes lit up with recognition. She crouched near a side entrance, whispering to Rex. The dog approached cautiously, sniffing along the door frame and perimeter. Daniels and Martinez followed, aware of the danger but trusting Emily's guidance. The child's intuition and Rex's responsiveness had consistently led them to critical evidence, and they were now moments away from a breakthrough. Emily motioned for the officers to stop. "Wait," she whispered. Rex sat, ears alert, eyes fixed on a small vent near the building's foundation. Daniels approached carefully, examining the area. Inside the vent, partially hidden, were multiple items of jewelry, cash, and personal belongings linked to several recent burglaries. The careful placement suggested someone had been using the location as a temporary cache, a methodical approach to avoid detection. Martinez crouched beside Daniels, shaking his head. "We would have missed this completely. She's incredible." Daniels agreed silently, noting how Emily's calm observation and Rex's trained instincts had revealed layers of the investigation that would have otherwise remained hidden. Together, The child and dog were uncovering the true depth of the criminal's methods, patterns, hiding spots, and intentional misdirection that even experienced officers might overlook. The team continued to follow the trail through the warehouse's perimeter, discovering additional hidden stashes. Emily's eyes scanned for disturbances in dust, scratches on surfaces, and subtle imprints in the dirt. Each observation led Rex to concealed items: a set of keys, a watch, a small notebook containing addresses and financial transactions, and even a pair of gloves with faint fingerprints. The evidence confirmed that the suspect was highly organized and aware of law enforcement tactics. Yet Emily and Rex were able to anticipate these moves. Daniels reflected on the significance. The evidence not only linked multiple thefts but also revealed a methodical criminal who had assumed law enforcement would overlook subtle details. Emily, with her father's training as a foundation, was able to identify patterns, detect hidden evidence, and guide Rex to uncover items with precision. The partnership of child and dog had become indispensable to solving the case, bridging gaps that traditional methods could not reach. By late afternoon, they reached the outskirts of the city, where abandoned lots and empty warehouses provided ideal hiding spots for the thief's activities. Emily stopped suddenly, tilting her head and motioning Rex toward a fenced enclosure. The dog approached with caution, alert and ready. Daniels examined the area and discovered a cache of stolen property, including electronics, cash, and several pieces of jewelry. The scale of the operation was larger than anyone had anticipated. "Emily," Daniels said quietly, kneeling beside her, "you've helped uncover the full extent of these thefts. We would have never found all of this without you." Emily glanced at Rex, who responded with a low, approving whine. "Rex knows," she said simply. Her words carried authority, simplicity, and truth. The dog's responsiveness had been the key, but it was Emily's understanding and intuition that had guided him flawlessly through each step of the investigation. Martinez glanced at Daniels, shaking his head in awe. "We're witnessing something extraordinary. A child and a dog have mapped out the criminal operation better than any of our previous teams." Daniels nodded, considering the implications. The scale of the investigation, the precision of the trail, and the successful recovery of evidence all pointed to the need for careful coordination. Emily's guidance had transformed what could have been a prolonged investigation into a methodical, precise operation. The officers documented every recovered item, taking photographs and cataloging fingerprints. Emily remained by Rex's side, calm and observant, guiding the dog to double-check hiding spots and ensuring nothing was overlooked. Daniels noted the efficiency and thoroughness of the duo, recognizing that their contributions were not only extraordinary but essential to the success of the investigation. Each discovery added clarity, piece by piece, painting a complete picture of the criminal's methods. As the sun dipped low on the horizon, casting long shadows across the industrial area, Daniels felt a mixture of awe and relief. The trail they had traced, guided entirely by Emily and Rex, had revealed a sophisticated criminal operation, meticulously planned and executed. The evidence they had uncovered, including hidden caches, personal items, and documents, was now sufficient to build a solid case against the perpetrator. Emily and Rex moved calmly through the final stretch, identifying subtle disturbances and confirming locations of hidden evidence. Daniels and Martinez followed, careful not to rush or disrupt the natural rhythm between the girl and her canine partner. Each step, each discovery, was a testament to observation, intuition, and trust, a dynamic partnership that had outperformed conventional investigation methods. By nightfall, the team had successfully traced the trail from the first burglary to the warehouse, mapping the criminal's movements with precision. The scope of the operation, previously hidden in plain sight, was now fully visible. Emily's insight, combined with Rex's instincts and the officer's support, had revealed a complex pattern of theft, misdirection, and concealment. Without the child's intervention, much of this evidence would have remained undiscovered. Daniels finally turned to Emily, kneeling beside her and Rex. You've guided us through every step, helped uncover evidence we might have missed, and kept us on track. Your father would be proud." Emily hugged her bunny tightly, a quiet smile on her lips. "I just follow Rex," she said softly. "He shows me where to look." Martinez shook his head in amazement. "I've worked with K-9 units for years, and I've never seen anything like this. You two are remarkable." Daniels nodded, watching Emily and Rex, knowing that this partnership, born from instinct, training, and trust, had changed the investigation entirely. As the team prepared to leave the industrial area, Daniels knew the true challenge was still ahead. The evidence traced a path to the heart of a criminal network, a challenge that would require every ounce of insight, observation, and courage Emily and Rex could provide. But for now, the trail had been fully mapped, the hidden caches uncovered, and the investigation had reached a turning point thanks to an unlikely duo, a child and her K-9 partner. The quiet streets and empty lots now held the remnants of a criminal operation exposed. Emily stood beside Rex, both alert yet calm, as if sensing the weight of their discovery. The officers knew that the coming days would demand further diligence, but the breakthrough achieved today had set the foundation. The child's guidance, the dog's skill, and the officer's experience had merged into an unstoppable force, ready to confront the deeper mystery lurking behind the burglaries. As darkness fell over the city, Daniels and Martinez led Emily and Rex back to the precinct, reflecting on the magnitude of the day's discoveries. The neighborhood would sleep safely tonight, unaware of how close the thief had been to evading capture entirely. But one thing was certain: the partnership of child and dog had revealed a truth no one else could see, tracing the criminal's path with a precision that would lead them to justice. The night had settled like a heavy blanket over the city, but at the precinct, activity was far from slowing. Daniels and Martinez meticulously reviewed the evidence collected over the past 2 days, while Emily sat nearby, her eyes occasionally darting toward Rex. The dog rested alertly at her feet, ears twitching with sensitivity to every sound. The recovered items, jewelry, wallets, cash, and documents, painted a clear picture of a criminal operation, but a key piece was still missing: the person responsible. The suspect had eluded them for weeks, always one step ahead. Daniels exhaled, rubbing his temples. "We've traced the items, followed the trail, and mapped out their location," he said, glancing at Martinez. "But we still don't have the suspect. Whoever did this is smart, very smart, and patient. We need to think like them." Martinez nodded slowly, scrolling through the digital maps and location logs. "The pattern's there," he said, "but they're covering it with distractions, false leads, and empty houses. Whoever this is, they're methodical." Emily shifted on her chair, her eyes on Rex. "He knows," she said softly. Daniels and Martinez exchanged a glance. "Rex knows?" Daniels asked. Emily nodded. "He can smell it, I just have to follow him." Daniels stood, feeling a mixture of awe and anxiety. He had relied on K-9 intuition for years, but he had never trusted a child's guidance this completely. Yet the results spoke for themselves. The team quickly prepared to follow Emily and Rex into the field. They moved silently, aware of the stakes. Every step was deliberate. Every shadow and alley could conceal the suspect. Emily led the way, Rex at her side, sniffing and alert. The officers trailed behind, careful not to interfere, trusting the girls' instincts to guide them to the hidden criminal. They retraced paths through abandoned lots and quiet streets, places the suspect had likely used as temporary hiding spots. Emily paused near a row of old warehouses, her head tilted slightly as she studied the ground. Rex sniffed the air, his body tense, tail low. Daniels crouched beside her. "What do you see?" he asked quietly. She pointed toward a small gap in a fence, barely noticeable. "There," she whispered. Rex moved toward it immediately, ears perked and nose to the ground. The team approached cautiously. The gap in the fence led to a neglected storage yard, shadows stretching long under flickering streetlights. Daniels motioned for Martinez to stay alert as they followed Emily and Rex. The dog paused suddenly, sniffing a corner where debris had accumulated. Emily knelt, her fingers brushing aside leaves and dirt. Beneath them lay a partially buried duffel bag containing cash, electronics, and documents that directly linked to the burglaries. "This is it," Emily said softly. "He hides things here." Daniels felt a chill run down his spine. The child's intuition had guided them precisely to the suspect's stash, and Rex had confirmed her instincts. Martinez shook his head in disbelief. "We'd never have found this without them." Daniels nodded silently, appreciating the quiet competence of the duo. As they examined the contents of the duffel bag, Emily noticed faint scuff marks along the yard's edge. "He leaves them here," she whispered, pointing. Rex sniffed, then followed the faint trail along the fence line, indicating movement toward a darkened section of the yard. Daniels gestured for silence. They had confirmation. The suspect was close. Hours passed in tense anticipation, the team creeping through shadows, tracking subtle signs of the intruder. Emily remained focused, guiding Rex through areas where footprints were faint and disturbed soil barely indicated movement. Each clue they uncovered brought them closer to the hidden suspect, a person who had assumed law enforcement would overlook every detail. But Emily's keen perception and Rex's trained instincts left nothing unnoticed. Finally, Rex stopped abruptly, ears raised, hackles slightly elevated. Emily crouched, whispering, "He's here." Daniels and Martinez froze, eyes scanning the area. In a shadowed corner, partially concealed behind stacked crates, a figure shifted. The suspect, caught off guard, hesitated. Rex growled softly, his presence unmistakable, and Emily's calm words seemed to steady the dog. "Wait," she murmured, giving a subtle hand signal that stopped Rex from attacking. The suspect blinked in confusion, unaware that a 10-year-old girl had guided a K-9 to his location. Daniels stepped forward, keeping his voice calm but authoritative. "Step away from the crates. You're surrounded. We have evidence linking you to multiple burglaries." The figure hesitated, glancing at the open yard and the officers behind Emily and Rex. Emily's presence unnerved him more than the uniformed officers. Rex's low growl reminded the suspect of the dog's proximity, and Emily's small voice, firm and certain, made him realize resistance was futile. Slowly, the man raised his hands. Daniels moved carefully, securing him while Martinez retrieved the duffel bag and other items. The suspect, now handcuffed, could not hide his shock and frustration at having been discovered by a child and her dog. Emily approached cautiously, Rex at her side, both observing the situation. Daniels knelt beside her. "You did it, Emily," he said softly. "You helped us find the suspect. You guided Rex perfectly." Emily hugged her stuffed bunny tightly, a mixture of relief and pride on her face. "He wouldn't have stayed hidden if I didn't help," she whispered. Rex nudged her gently, as if confirming her role in the capture. Martinez shook his head, still in awe. "A 10-year-old and a dog just solved what would have taken us days, maybe weeks. Incredible." Daniels nodded, reviewing the items recovered from the duffel bag. Evidence included documents, stolen items, and personal effects linking the man directly to previous burglaries across the neighborhood. This arrest not only concluded a long-standing investigation, but also highlighted the unique partnership between Emily and Rex. The suspect was taken into custody and transported to the station for processing. Daniels and Martinez reviewed the evidence, ensuring that each item was documented and logged accurately. Emily and Rex remained by the team's side, calm yet vigilant. The child's ability to interpret Rex's cues and her own keen observation had been instrumental in locating the suspect and recovering critical evidence. By early morning, after hours of careful documentation, the precinct began piecing together the full scope of the criminal's operation. Each item recovered, each hidden stash located, and each subtle clue Emily had detected provided law enforcement with a complete picture of the burglar's methodical approach. The combination of child intuition, K-9 precision, and police experience had created an investigative force unlike anything Daniels or Martinez had witnessed before. Daniels turned to Emily as Rex rested beside her, tail wagging slightly. "Emily, you've done something remarkable. Your insight and guidance helped us capture a suspect who has been evading justice for months." Emily smiled faintly, looking at Rex. "We just work together," she said. "He shows me where to look and I follow." Daniels nodded, understanding that the simplicity of her words belied the complexity of their achievement. Martinez added, "This partnership, it's not just skill, it's instinct, and it's incredible to see it in action." Daniels agreed, reflecting on the day's events. Emily had transformed the investigation from a series of blind leads into a methodical process of discovery, directly leading to the capture of a sophisticated criminal. The combination of intuition, trust, and careful observation had revealed hidden evidence and patterns that traditional methods alone could not uncover. As dawn broke over the city, Emily and Rex were celebrated quietly by the precinct for their contributions. Their efforts had uncovered evidence, traced the criminal's path, and secured a suspect who had evaded capture for weeks. The bond between child and dog had proven to be a critical element in the investigation's success, demonstrating the power of observation, intuition, and teamwork. Daniel stood beside Emily, watching as Rex nudged her hand gently. "You've helped us bring justice to the neighborhood," he said softly, "and you did it with confidence, patience, and insight beyond your years." Emily smiled faintly, hugging her bunny. "Rex helps me see," she whispered. The precinct prepared to move the suspect through formal procedures, while Daniels and Martinez reviewed the evidence one final time. Emily and Rex, though young and small, had played a pivotal role in solving a case that had challenged the entire department. Their partnership had proven effective beyond expectation, highlighting the importance of intuition, trust, and careful observation in law enforcement. Even as the suspect was processed and evidence secured, Daniels knew this case would be remembered not just for the arrest, but for the extraordinary contribution of a 10-year-old girl and her K-9 companion. The partnership had changed the outcome of the investigation and revealed a method of problem-solving that combined instinct with experience in a way the officers had never witnessed. As the sun fully rose, casting light across the city, Emily stood quietly beside Rex. The dog rested its head on her lap, ears twitching at every small sound. Daniels and Martinez looked on, aware that the true breakthrough had come not from procedure or technology, but from a partnership built on observation, trust, and intuition. Emily and Rex had traced the hidden suspect, uncovered evidence, and ultimately changed the course of the investigation forever. The city stirred, unaware of the quiet heroism that had unfolded during the night. Emily had demonstrated courage, insight, and leadership far beyond her years, while Rex had applied his trained instincts with precision. Together, they had solved a case that had confounded law enforcement, revealing patterns and hidden clues that led directly to a suspect who had believed himself untouchable. And as the precinct began its day, the officers silently acknowledged that justice had been delivered in a way no one could have predicted. A 10-year-old girl and her dog had rewritten the rules of investigation, leaving behind a trail of lessons in trust, observation, and the extraordinary capabilities of unlikely heroes. The morning air was crisp as Daniels, Martinez, Emily, and Rex returned to the precinct, still buzzing from the previous night's breakthrough. The suspect had been secured, evidence cataloged, and the community was beginning to recover from weeks of uncertainty. But Daniels felt an unease he couldn't shake. Something about the case felt unfinished, as if the criminal's network extended beyond the stolen items and the man they had just arrested. Emily, meanwhile, seemed entirely focused, sitting quietly with Rex by her side, her small frame emanating a calm, unwavering confidence. Martinez sifted through the evidence, nodding that the items in custody only represented part of the criminal's operation. "It's strange," he murmured. "We've recovered almost everything, but I can't shake the feeling we're missing a piece. Something bigger is going on." Daniels nodded slowly. "I've felt the same way. The trail led us here, but what if he wasn't acting alone? What if there's someone orchestrating this from the shadows?" Emily tilted her head, glancing at Rex. "He's hiding something," she said softly, almost as if speaking to the dog rather than the officers. Rex's ears twitched and he gave a low, alert whine. Daniels recognized the tone, Rex had detected an unseen presence, an energy or scent that suggested someone else was involved. Martinez leaned closer. "Do you really think there's another person?" he asked quietly. Emily nodded, her eyes scanning the room as if the answer was obvious to her. "We need to follow the trail further," Daniels decided. "Emily, Rex, can you show us if there's more we haven't found?" The girl nodded, setting her stuffed bunny aside. Rex immediately responded, moving in the direction of a map spread across the table, indicating subtle signs of hidden locations the officers had not yet checked. Daniels felt a shiver of anticipation. Emily's instincts and Rex's precision had already uncovered the criminal, but now they were pointing towards something entirely unexpected. The team geared up and left the precinct, moving carefully through the quiet streets. Emily led, her small form confident, and Rex moved fluidly at her side, alert to every sound, scent, and movement. The trail was faint, subtle, and easily missed by anyone less observant. But Emily's eyes caught every disturbance: scratches in the dirt, faint scuffs along fences, and broken twigs marking hidden paths. She whispered cues to Rex, who responded immediately, moving toward locations invisible to the untrained eye. They arrived at an old, abandoned storage unit on the edge of town. It was unremarkable, dusty, and overgrown with weeds, yet Emily's expression indicated awareness. She crouched near the entrance, whispering to Rex, who sniffed carefully along the foundation. Daniels approached cautiously, noting the subtle disturbances Emily had detected: footprints, slightly moved debris, and faint traces of recent activity. Martinez glanced at him, wide-eyed. "You're telling me this place was used by someone else?" "Hidden right under our noses." Emily nodded, motioning Rex to follow a narrow path behind the storage unit. The dog moved cautiously, ears raised, nose scanning for unseen evidence. Daniels and Martinez followed silently, aware that Emily's instincts had consistently led them to critical discoveries. Each clue, each subtle mark, indicated that another person had been operating in conjunction with the arrested suspect, a partner who had expertly avoided detection. Inside the storage unit, they discovered a small, hidden compartment beneath a stack of crates. Emily reached in carefully, pulling out a folder containing receipts, notes, and documents that suggested a larger criminal network. Names, addresses, and coded messages indicated coordination and premeditation far beyond what they had anticipated. Daniels felt a rush of realization. The man they had arrested was not the mastermind. He had been following instructions, part of a more extensive plan. Martinez whistled softly. "So there's a bigger fish, someone controlling the operation from the shadows." Daniels nodded, reviewing the documents. "This explains the precision and foresight. The items we recovered were only a fraction of what's planned. Whoever's behind this is organized, careful, and dangerous." Emily studied the folder, her expression serious. "Rex says we can find them. We just need to follow the signs," she said confidently. The team moved quickly, guided by Emily's subtle gestures and Rex's responses. The trail led them through narrow alleyways, past vacant lots, and along hidden paths that even seasoned officers might have missed. Emily's eyes caught subtle indicators: disturbed gravel, faint odors, and broken vegetation. Each cue guided Rex, who reacted instantly, moving toward locations where evidence of the second suspect had been hidden. Eventually, they arrived at a small, inconspicuous townhouse. From the outside, it appeared abandoned, windows covered in dust, curtains drawn. But Emily paused, scanning the ground. Rex whined softly, ears perked, signaling the presence of someone inside. Daniels gestured for Martinez to stay low, then approached the front door cautiously. Emily gave a subtle nod, indicating the safest way inside, and Rex led the way, silently and efficiently. Inside, the townhouse was cluttered with papers, electronics, and bags similar to the ones previously recovered. A man sat hunched over a desk, frantically sorting documents and checking receipts. When he noticed movement, he froze, then bolted toward a back exit. Rex barked sharply, running after him, and Emily followed with determination, pointing and giving subtle cues. Daniels and Martinez pursued, moving quickly but carefully, aware of the potential danger. The man attempted to scale a fence at the back, but Rex intercepted him, blocking his path while growling and snapping. Emily's calm voice guided Rex, preventing unnecessary aggression but keeping the suspect contained. Daniels arrived, handcuffs ready, as Martinez secured the perimeter. The man realized resistance was futile and finally surrendered. The second suspect had been hiding in plain sight, orchestrating the burglaries while his partner had been arrested. As the officers secured him, Emily knelt beside Rex, who had remained alert but composed. Daniels approached, awe evident in his voice. "Emily, you've done it again. You've helped us uncover the real mastermind. I don't know how to thank you." Emily hugged her bunny, her expression calm. "Rex knows where to look. I just follow," she said simply. The dog nudged her gently as if affirming her words. Martinez shook his head in disbelief. "We thought we had it all figured out yesterday. Turns out there was more. Thanks to these two, we've caught the person behind everything." Daniels nodded. The evidence recovered from the townhouse included stolen items, plans for future burglaries, and detailed records of the criminal network. It confirmed that the operation was far larger than initially suspected, and Emily and Rex had led them directly to the core. Back at the precinct, both suspects were processed separately, and the evidence cataloged meticulously. Daniels and Martinez reviewed the findings, amazed at the completeness of the investigation. The recovered items, documents, and hidden locations revealed a network operating under the radar, coordinated with precision. Emily's insight and Rex's guidance had not only solved the initial series of burglaries, but had dismantled an entire operation before it could expand further. Emily watched calmly as Rex remained by her side, ears alert. Daniels knelt beside her. "You've helped us capture both the man we thought was responsible and the real mastermind behind this. That's incredible." Emily shrugged slightly. "Rex helps me see the hidden things," she said softly. "I just follow him." Daniels smiled faintly, realizing the simplicity of her words belied the complexity of their achievement. Martinez added, "A 10-year-old girl and a dog just solved a case that had confounded our entire department. That's something I'll be telling people about for years." Daniels nodded, glancing at Emily and Rex. "They didn't just solve it, they showed us a new way of thinking, a new way to observe and interpret the world. We owe a lot to both of them." The precinct began the formal process of evidence review, documentation, and coordination with higher authorities to ensure the criminal network was dismantled fully. Every piece of recovered evidence, from stolen items to detailed plans, was logged meticulously. Emily and Rex, though young and small, had fundamentally altered the course of the investigation, providing insight and guidance that no procedural method alone could achieve. As evening approached, the city began to settle into quiet normalcy. Emily sat calmly beside Rex, watching the officers work. Daniels and Martinez reflected on the day's events, recognizing that the breakthrough had not been procedural. It had been intuitive, instinctual, and human. Emily's training, her father's lessons, and Rex's skill had converged to reveal truths that might otherwise have remained hidden. The second suspect's arrest had resolved the mystery, but it also highlighted the ingenuity, precision, and audacity of the criminal network. Emily had remained composed throughout, interpreting Rex's cues, identifying subtle signs, and guiding the officers to the hidden mastermind. Her courage and skill, combined with Rex's trained instincts, had dismantled the entire operation in record time. Daniels finally turned to Emily, kneeling beside her and Rex. "You've guided us through every step, uncovered hidden evidence, and helped capture the real criminal. Your father would be so proud." Emily hugged her bunny, her small smile calm but confident. "Rex helps me see," she said quietly, and the dog gave a reassuring nuzzle. Martinez shook his head in amazement. "We've learned more from a 10-year-old and a dog than we have in decades of training. Unbelievable." Daniels nodded, realizing that Emily and Rex's partnership had not only solved the case but had also redefined how observation, intuition, and trust could impact an investigation. As night fell, the precinct quieted. The criminals were in custody, evidence secured, and the community's safety restored. Emily and Rex, though small in size, had played an indispensable role, revealing hidden truths and dismantling a criminal network that had confounded law enforcement for weeks. Their extraordinary partnership had ensured that justice was served, and the investigation concluded with clarity, precision, and a sense of awe for the unlikely heroes who had made it possible. The morning sun rose over the quiet Texas town, spilling golden light across the streets that had been haunted by weeks of theft and fear. Inside the precinct, Daniels and Martinez prepared final reports for the chief, meticulously cataloging the recovered evidence, the arrests, and the trail of discoveries that had led to the dismantling of a complex criminal network. But amidst the paperwork and procedural routines, all eyes inevitably turned to Emily and Rex, the unlikely duo who had rewritten the rules of investigation with instinct, trust, and courage. Emily sat quietly near Rex, her small frame composed and calm, clutching her stuffed bunny. The dog rested its head on her lap, ears alert, eyes scanning the precinct with a keen awareness. Daniels observed the pair, struck by the extraordinary nature of what had just occurred. A child and a K-9 had not only assisted in a routine investigation, they had led the officers to the true mastermind, uncovered hidden evidence, and revealed a criminal network that had eluded law enforcement for months. Martinez, sitting across the room, shook his head slowly. "I can't believe it," he murmured. "We thought yesterday's arrest was the end. Turns out there was more, and we owe it all to them." Daniels nodded. "It's not just the arrests, it's the precision, the insight, the patience. Emily noticed things we would have overlooked. Rex confirmed them. Together, they saw what we couldn't." The precinct chief entered, carrying a folder thick with reports and photographs. His expression was a mix of admiration and disbelief. "I've seen a lot in my career," he said, addressing the room, "but I've never seen a 10-year-old and a K-9 accomplish what you've done. This investigation could have taken weeks, even months, if it weren't for Emily and Rex." Emily's eyes widened slightly, and she hugged her bunny tighter. Rex responded with a soft whine, sensing the gravity of the praise. Daniels stepped forward, his tone sincere. "Chief, Emily's instincts and guidance, paired with Rex's skills, led us directly to the hidden suspect, the recovered evidence, and ultimately dismantled the criminal network. Without them, much of this would have remained undiscovered." Martinez added, "She interprets Rex's signals with incredible accuracy. It's a partnership unlike anything I've ever seen." The chief knelt to Emily's level, looking into her calm brown eyes. "Emily, you've done something extraordinary. You've helped keep this town safe, solved crimes, and shown courage beyond your years. I want to make sure everyone knows what you've done." Emily smiled faintly, glancing at Rex, who nudged her hand in quiet affirmation. "I just follow Rex," she said softly. The simplicity of her words belied the magnitude of her contribution. Daniels and Martinez escorted Emily and Rex outside, where a small crowd of neighbors, reporters, and colleagues had gathered. Word of the investigation and its resolution had spread quickly, and people were eager to see the young girl and her K-9 partner. Children stared in awe, adults whispered with admiration, and a sense of collective gratitude filled the air. Emily and Rex had become local heroes without seeking recognition. A local news crew filmed a short segment, capturing Emily's calm demeanor as she stood beside Rex. Daniels spoke on her behalf, highlighting the partnership that had led to the arrests. "It wasn't just skill," he explained. "It was intuition, observation, and trust. Emily and Rex have shown us the power of working together in ways no one expected." Emily's small hand gently rested on Rex's head, and the dog sat obediently, ears perked, eyes alert, as if understanding the importance of the moment. The crowd applauded as Emily and Rex were formally recognized by the chief of police. A plaque was presented, detailing the exceptional contributions of a child and her K-9 companion. "This isn't just an award," the chief said. "It's a testament to courage, insight, and partnership. Emily, Rex, thank you for showing us that sometimes the most unlikely heroes are the ones we least expect." Emily's cheeks flushed slightly, but her calm smile conveyed pride and humility. Daniels took a moment to reflect. In his years on the force, he had relied on K-9 units countless times but never had a partnership like this emerged. A child interpreting a dog's instincts, guiding officers to hidden evidence and unraveling a criminal network with patience and clarity. He glanced at Emily, who was quietly surveying the crowd, and then at Rex, who sat attentively by her side. Together, they had accomplished the impossible. Martinez leaned toward Daniels, whispering, "You know this changes everything. We've always relied on procedure and technology, but this is different." Emily and Rex proved that observation and instinct matter more than we realized. Daniels nodded silently. "And it's a lesson we'll carry forward. Their methods, subtle, intuitive, precise, have saved time, uncovered hidden evidence, and ensured justice. We've been shown a better way if only we have the eyes to see it." The ceremony concluded, and the precinct returned to routine operations. Yet, Emily and Rex remained at the center of attention, quietly proud of their role in resolving the case. The suspects were formally charged, evidence thoroughly documented, and the criminal network dismantled. Justice had been served, thanks to the unlikely partnership of child and dog. Later, Daniels walked Emily and Rex back toward the small playground near her home. "Emily," he said, "do you realize what you've accomplished? You've helped bring peace to this neighborhood, solved crimes, and guided us through a complex investigation. And you did it all with grace and courage." Emily glanced up, tilting her head slightly. "I just followed Rex," she said softly. Rex gave a small, approving nuzzle. Martinez joined them, smiling. "You two have set a standard that we'll remember for years. I don't think we'll ever see a partnership like this again." Emily hugged her bunny tightly, her gaze steady. "Rex helps me see things others can't," she said. "We work together." Daniels and Martinez exchanged a glance, realizing the truth in her words. The partnership was more than guidance. It was a bond built on trust, understanding, and instinct. In the days that followed, the story of Emily and Rex spread throughout the town and beyond. Local newspapers, social media, and news outlets shared the tale of the 10-year-old girl and her K-9 companion who had unraveled a complex criminal network. People marveled at the courage and insight demonstrated by someone so young, paired with the precision and loyalty of a trained dog. Emily became a symbol of extraordinary potential, the embodiment of trust and partnership between human and animal. At home, Emily reflected on the events with Rex resting at her feet. Though the attention was overwhelming at times, she remained calm, grounded by the presence of her canine partner. Daniels and Martinez occasionally visited, sharing updates and expressing gratitude. The duo's contribution had permanently changed the approach of the precinct, highlighting the importance of observation, intuition, and partnership in law enforcement. One afternoon, Daniels sat beside Emily on a bench at the playground. "Do you realize that what you've done will inspire people for years?" he asked gently. Emily glanced at Rex, then back at Daniels, her expression thoughtful. "I just helped Rex do his job," she said simply. "We notice things together, that's all." Daniels smiled. "It's more than that. You've shown us what's possible when trust, observation, and instinct guide action." Martinez joined them, nodding in agreement. "We've learned so much from you too, and we'll make sure your story helps others understand that heroes come in all forms." Emily smiled faintly, hugging her bunny. Rex rested his head on her lap, ears twitching softly. In that moment, Daniels and Martinez realized that the impact of their work would extend far beyond the arrests. The partnership of Emily and Rex had become legendary in its own right. Weeks later, Emily returned to school, where her classmates greeted her with admiration and curiosity. Though she remained humble, her confidence had grown. She and Rex continued their quiet routines, aware that their contributions had changed lives. Daniels and Martinez occasionally visited, providing gentle reminders that their extraordinary efforts were recognized and appreciated. But Emily remained focused on the simple truth. She followed Rex, and together they saw what others could not. At the precinct, the case files were finalized, the suspects prosecuted, and the criminal network dismantled. The community's trust was restored, and the officers knew that the success of the investigation owed entirely to the quiet heroism of a child and her dog. Emily had demonstrated courage, insight, and unwavering focus, while Rex had applied skill, intuition, and loyalty to uncover hidden evidence. Together, they had ensured justice, leaving a lasting legacy for the town. Daniels reflected on the journey, realizing that some of the most extraordinary heroes often come in the smallest forms. Emily's understanding of Rex's instincts, combined with her observational skill and calm demeanor, had transformed the investigation. Martinez agreed, nodding that their success would influence investigative practices and inspire officers to reconsider the role of intuition and partnership in law enforcement. As the sun set over the city, casting warm light across the streets, Emily and Rex walked home together. The town was quiet, safe, and secure. Though the challenges they faced were immense, their courage, insight, and teamwork had prevailed. In the quiet moments, Emily whispered to Rex, "We did it, together." The dog responded with a gentle nuzzle, his presence reassuring and constant. And so, the story of Emily and Rex came to an end, not in grandiose fanfare, but in quiet heroism, trust, and partnership. A child's instincts, a dog's training, and unwavering courage had combined to solve a case that had confounded law enforcement for weeks. The legacy of their actions would be remembered in the precinct, the community, and the hearts of those who had witnessed the extraordinary power of observation, intuition, and trust. In a world where justice often relies on procedure and routine, Emily and Rex proved that sometimes the most unlikely heroes, the quiet, observant, and intuitive, can make the most profound impact. And as the city slept peacefully that night, the child and her dog rested too, knowing they had made a difference that would never be forgotten.